Following our video about the best things to do in Lisbon for the first time. This video features some uncommon things to do in Lisbon, ideal for anyone visiting the Portuguese capital for the second or third time, or for those who have plenty of time to spare during their first Lisbon trip. After spending more than a month in the Portuguese capital recently, we handpicked the most unique things to do in Lisbon, if you're already done with the main sightseeing. This video goes out to all of you enchanted travelers who've had a first taste of Lisbon, but now craving more. Located on the opposite side of the Tagus River from Lisbon, Almada offers a lot more than just breathtaking views of the Portuguese capital. With its nostalgic aura, photogenic nooks and authentic atmosphere, Almada tops our list of alternative things to do in Lisbon. Catch an early ferry to Almada from the hip neighborhood of Cais do Sodré in Lisbon. Soon you will be in Almada, greeted by a bright red lighthouse and panoramic vistas of Lisbon. But the best is yet to come. Stroll along the seemingly melancholic promenade, where abandoned buildings have become the canvas for street artists to create pieces of art, and quaint seaside restaurants tempt you to savor lunch with a view. You will walk past tiny coves, small parks, and photo-worthy piers until you reach the nearby panoramic elevator. Enjoy the ride up the glass lift and get ready for the most stunning views of Lisbon. During your riverside walks in Lisbon, you must have spotted the giant statue of Cristo Rei soaring over the Tagus River, sometimes partly hidden by thick clouds. When in Almada, don't miss the chance to visit the sanctuary of Christ the King and admire the colossal statue from up close. The Cristo Rei statue and the adjoining chapel are set in the heart of a large park that boasts beautiful views of Lisbon and the iconic 25th of April bridge. Yet, the panoramas don't end here. You can actually climb up the statue for even more spectacular views and a closer look at the gigantic structure. There is a lift and then a flight of stairs to get to the top of the monument. In striking contrast to the city's traditional architecture, the impressive Park of the Nations is Lisbon's take on contemporary architecture. A former industrial area, the entire park and its buildings were constructed for the 1998 Lisbon World Exposition. Nowadays, the park is a perfect place to take long walks by the river, past scenic wooden piers and sculptures of various artistic styles, catching the occasional glimpse of a futuristic building or two along the way. Among the structures that stand out are the Pavilion of Knowledge, the Vasco da Gama Mall, and the Vasco da Gama Tower. Our personal favorite, though, is the Vasco da Gama Bridge, an engineering masterpiece and one of the longest bridges in Europe. A great alternative to walking is a ride on the park's cable car. The Alex Factory has no place on any list of uncommon places to visit in Lisbon, as it has taken Instagram by storm. However, you can't miss the on-site Ler Devagar, an awe-inspiring bookstore that boasts a collection of thousands of volumes spread across several spaces. That said, instead of simply snapping a selfie and moving on from this wondrous place, it's worth spending as much time as you can within the walls of the bookstore, maybe even reading a book and enjoying a cup of tea there. Right next to the Alex Factory, Village Underground is a cultural hub where you can have lunch on a vintage double-decker bus. The former Tejo Power Station now houses Lisbon's impressive electricity museum, where you can see the machinery used to provide the city of Lisbon with light at the beginning of the 20th century. The Electricity Museum is part of the Museum of Art, Architecture and Technology, also known as MAT. Apart from the old Tejo Power Station building, the museum complex also features an ultra-modern building where temporary exhibitions are held. The latter has a white tiled roof that doubles as a terrace, offering panoramic vistas of the Tagus River. The promenade in front of the museum isn't bad for a walk either. As we often like to say, if you want to mingle with the local population, head to a city's markets. In the case of Lisbon, we're not talking about the fancy markets like the famous time-out market Lisboa. No, we're talking about the real deal. And this is no other than Feira da Ladra, Lisbon's oldest flea market in Campo de Santa Clara. Open on Tuesdays and Saturdays, the flea market is a perfect place to hunt for vintage treasures and people watch. In the adjoining Santa Clara Covered Market, you will find everything from clothes and jewelry to delicious treats, savory and sweet. Right next to the flea market, it's worth checking out the National Pantheon, the burial site of several prominent Portuguese people and a staple of Lisbon's skyline. Founded in 1904, Benfica is the most supported football club in Portugal. Therefore, learning more about Benfica is one of the coolest things to do in Lisbon. The best way to do so is to plan a visit to the Benfica Stadium and Museum. At the museum, you will have the chance to go through Benfica's history, admire the trophies the team has won, and get to know Eusebio, Benfica's top scorer and best player ever, a true icon and ambassador of football. Yet, the highlight of this visit is the guided tour of the Da Luz Stadium, during which you will walk in the shoes of famous footballers as you stroll through the lockers in the press room, or even enter the field through the stadium tunnel. There was one thing that we didn't like about our Benfica experience though. 3 bald eagles live in or around the stadium, serving as the team's mascots. Upon asking, we were reassured that they are living a happy life. Still, we believe they belong to the wild rather than live in captivity in a concrete stadium in the heart of a European capital. One of the most extraordinary examples of 18th century Portuguese engineering, Águas Livres is a historic aqueduct that allows you to enjoy a walk like no other. You can even have a sneak peek at its interior. Informative signs and a small museum help you learn more about the aqueduct and how it worked. Founded in 1829, Confeitaria Nacional is the oldest dessert shop in Lisbon. Its charming, old-fashioned interior is the best place to savor top-quality tea or coffee and delicious cake. The speciality of Confeitaria Nacional is Bolo Rei, a typical Portuguese Christmas cake. The resting place for several notable Portuguese people, Prettiest Cemetery is considered one of the most beautiful cemeteries in the world. It consists exclusively of mausoleums, some of which are true pieces of art. Prettiest Cemetery is where Lisbon's iconic tram 28 ends its circular sightseeing route. To avoid the queues at the tram starting point in Martim Moniz Square, it's wise to take the tram from Prazeres instead. If you're into street art and plastic art, Lisbon won't disappoint. Look for Bordallos Agudos animals made of recycled materials that are scattered across the city streets, or pay a visit to the fantastic Bordaló Pinheiro Garden to admire large animal representations that evoke mythical worlds. Did you know that Lisbon had its own Museu da Marioneta? Within its walls, you can familiarize yourselves with the history of puppets and puppet theaters in Portugal and the rest of the world, while marveling at a vast collection of puppets. The Church of São Domingos near Osiu was almost completely destroyed during the 1755 Lisbon earthquake. It was then rebuilt, only to be destroyed again by a fire in 1959. In 1994, the church reopened to the public, but you can still see the scars of its troubled past. We've reached the end of yet another video about Lisbon. Between this video about the best quirky things to do in Lisbon and our video about visiting Lisbon for the first time, we believe we've covered a lot of ground. Yet, no video can convey the true essence of a city as special as Lisbon, because this lies in its scents, sounds and tastes. You have to live Lisbon to believe us. So, what are you waiting for? Book those flights now! If you enjoyed our selection of uncommon things to do in Lisbon, please like, comment and share this video. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for watching!